Hello there, good to see you. Welcome back to another session on Internet Web Programming. In this session, we'll be taking a look at how to connect to the Mongo database from Node.js. I will start this session with this statement. Just fix on to one goal and keep trying to achieve your goal until you succeed, no matter how many number of times you fail. You may be wondering why I'm saying all these things. That's because while I was trying to establish a connection from Node.js to MongoDB, I failed so many number of times. I spent 2 weeks just trying to understand why the connection is not working. Every time I was trying to connect, I was getting a connection refusal error, or sometimes there was no response. I was installing, uninstalling Node.js, MongoDB. So lot of trial and errors, and finally one day it worked. And that's why I'm telling you, keep trying until you succeed. Okay, enough of all this philosophy. Now let's focus on the technical side of this connection. So to connect to Mongo database from Node.js, what is that you need? You should have installed Node.js. We have already seen how to install Node.js. So you can very well check. Go to your terminal, type node-v. So I've got this version of Node.js running in my system, that is 14.15.3. And you should also have installed MongoDB, very important. So just install MongoDB, go to the command prompt, and you can run your Mongo daemon process. Say I'm running MongoD, go to the bin folder of your installation using command prompt, run MongoD. So this is the backend daemon process. Next, what is that you do? You can open another window and you can connect to the Mongo shell. So you type Mongo, so you'll be able to connect to the Mongo database, and show DBS shows all the databases that are part of my Mongo database, and I'm using this particular database and the collections in the specific databases of student. There is one more important step, very important, which you should ensure for this to work. That is, you go to the services tab if you're on Windows, and you ensure that the MongoDB database server is running. So if you have any connection refusal errors happening while you're trying to connect to your MongoDB, this is one of the main causes. You should ensure that this is running. Sometimes the status is running and still something has gone wrong. So you can restart and just try it out. So ensure that your MongoDB server is running as a service on your systems. Very important. And next, you've already installed Node.js. You know the version of Node.js. Next, you have to install the packages, MongoDB packages, that will be helpful for you to connect from Node.js to MongoDB. So how you install that? You can type this command, that is npm node package manager, right? Install MongoDB and --save. So you are in this folder wherein your project code is going to run. So in this folder, I'm just installing the packages required for MongoDB database connection. After you install it, you can also check whether you have installed it by giving npm list MongoDB. So it will list the version. So here you can see it's MongoDB 5.2.0. So these are the important steps. What are those steps? Download and install Node.js. Download and install MongoDB. Ensure your processes are running. And ensure that MongoDB is running as a service. If not, start the service. Then install the packages required for this connection in your VS Code. Finally, use the Node Package Manager to install the packages required for this connection. So now we are good to go. I'm going to share with you pieces of code that will help you to connect to a database, the Mongo database, then insert a record, search for a record using a criteria, search for many records that match a criteria, select all the records from the table, from a collection, and also how to update records and delete records on the MongoDB. So we will start with this. First, I'm going to show you the code that will help us connect to the Mongo database. Not only that, it will also list the available databases in my MongoDB. I'll just go through this code. The first line is we have to use the MongoDB module. We have to import that in our code so that we can call the required methods to connect to the database. And we are writing all our connection code inside an asynchronous function. So we are going with an asynchronous function because we are performing a database related IO operation here. So we say it's async function main, and inside this function we are giving the URL, that is where our Mongo database is running. So this is the URL where my MongoDB is running. Say I'm running it here, right? So Mongo I type, and then I'm connecting to the Mongo shell. So you will be able to see connecting to MongoDB. This is the port number 27017. So you give the URL, and then you create an object of type Mongo client, and then you pass the URL. So we create an object of type Mongo client, so that will be used for the connection, and we put the entire connection code inside try catch block. So inside try we will establish connection to the client, that is client.connect, and this await. See, when you are establishing a connection to the MongoDB, it's again an asynchronous operation. So there is a promise returned whenever we are establishing a connection, and we are awaiting till that promise is resolved. So you can think of this line like this. We are not going to the next line in this code until this connection is established. So we wait for the promise to be resolved here, so that we will not go to the next line until the connection is established. So when the connection is established, how you establish the connection? It's client.connect. That's how you connect to the MongoDB database. And we also have another method, list databases. This is used for listing the databases in our MongoDB. And we also pass the connection object. So client is the connection object here, which we are passing. And any errors, we are logging it to the console. And finally, when there are no errors or exceptions, we will also close the database connection. So this is about establishing a connection with the database and listing the databases. So this is the method that we have written. That's an async method. So async function list databases. It receives the client. What is client? That is the object we have created of type Mongo client. So we pass it, and how is that you list all the databases in your database? That is client.db.admin.list databases. So this is going to give you a list of databases, and we are going to log that list in our console. So we get from the list every database name, and then we are logging the database name to the console. So this is the code. Let me run this code. And my file is first.js, so it is node first.js. So it's going to list all the databases available in my MongoDB after establishing a connection with the database. So you're able to see here admin config local Satish DB. So that's what these are the databases, and the connection is now established to my Mongo database. So there are certain things that we have to keep in mind. We are writing an async function here, and one more thing, you can use await only inside an async function. So you should go through the concept of what is async, await, and a promise. For now, when you're thinking of await, you can think of something like this. This should resolve before going to the next statement. So that is the use of await. That is, the promise should resolve before the code goes to the next statement. See, it's obvious, right? We can't list the databases before establishing a connection. So we want this to be resolved, and then we'll go to listing databases. Is that fine? So that's how you connect to a database, Mongo database, from Node.js. Next thing is how to insert a record. For inserting a record too, we'll be using an async method like what we did for list databases. Let's take a look at this specific method for inserting a record. Now let's go through the code that will enable us to insert a record into the Mongo database after establishing the database connection. So we require the MongoDB module, and then we pass the URL for the connection, and then we create an object of type Mongo client. First, we connect to the database. How you connect? The object, the method is .connect, and we will wait for the promise to resolve before we go to the next line. And after the connection is established, we are inserting a document. So we are using the connection object, and then this is the document I'm going to insert in the database. Name is Satish. Satish is teaching MongoDB. So we have two fields in the document. One is name and another one is summary. And this is the method, async method, that we are calling for inserting our record. So we'll see what this method is. So this method is this async function insert document. So it gets the connection object, and then new listing is nothing but the document that we are going to insert, the key value pairs here. So how you insert it is client.db. So we are inserting that in Satish DB. We are inserting in a collection called VS Code. Dot insert one means we are inserting one record. And what is that document we are inserting? New listing is, this is the new listing we are inserting. And after inserting, we log this info, new listing created with the following ID. So we'll run this code. We'll see how this one works, whether the record is getting inserted. So node first.js. Okay, new listing created with the following ID. So we will check our MongoDB for the record. So it's like we are in Satish DB, showed collections. See, now this VS Code collection has been created. Earlier we had only the student collection. How to check the records in VS Code? db.vscode.find. So it's going to give us all the records, and you can see we have inserted this record. That is, this is the default object ID that will be created. Whenever we insert a record, a unique ID is getting created. And the name is Satish. Satish is teaching MongoDB. So we have successfully inserted a record in our database. What is it we have done? We created a separate method, passed the connection object, and then the document pertaining to the insert. In our async function, we receive that method and then the document. And how you insert? Client.db, give the database name, dot collection, whatever collection you want to insert. Say if the collection is not present, it will create the collection for you. Insert one, and then it's going to get that document and insert it for us. Finally, it throws us the message that a document has been created. So insert is working fine. I hope you were able to follow this. So this is going to be a standard part requiring MongoDB module, passing the URL, creating an object of type Mongo client, and using this client for creating a connection or for inserting a record or for closing a connection. So this method connect is part of this object. Likewise, close is a method of this object client. What is client? Client is an object of type Mongo client. So whenever you are performing any operation with the database, first you need to connect to the DB. And when all the operations are done, you should also close the connection. And we are putting the entire thing inside try catch block because we handle exceptions. If there are any issues, we log that errors to the console. We are done with inserting a record. Now let's see how to search for a record in the Mongo database. So we'll use the same record we have inserted for searching, and we'll see whether we can search that specific record from the VS Code collection. So let's go to this code for searching the DB. Now let us take a look at the code for searching a specific record using a criteria in the MongoDB. So the first thing is we have to establish the connection. We should import the MongoDB module. As usual, create an object of type Mongo client by passing the URL. Then connect to the DB by calling client.connect. Same steps which you have done for insert and for connection too. Next, we write a method that is find user, which will get the object of type Mongo client, that is the connection object. And this is the parameter we'll use for searching. Say I want to find the document with the name Satish. So in the database, we have inserted this document just now, right? Name Satish. I want to find a document with the name Satish. And this is the method which will help us search for a document. So this is an async method. Find user gets the client, that's the connection, and username. Username is Satish, whatever that is getting passed. And how will you connect? It is, how will you search? You call client.db, pass the database. The collection name is VS Code. Dot find one finds the first document that matches the username with the name Satish. So we give name is actually, what's name? Name is actually the field. That is the key. So name, and what is username? Username is passed as an input parameter here, that is Satish. So we are just trying to find one document with the name Satish, and where this document is, it is in collection VS Code and it is inside this database. And we are getting a result returned. If there is a result, what we do is we log that result to the console, or else we log an error saying no listings found with the name. That's it. So get the connection object, get the parameter for search, write this command dot find one, name, and whatever parameter that we use for that search. If you get a result, log that result, or else you can log the message to the console saying no listings found. Let me run this code. Let's see whether we are able to find a record. Let me run this code, node first.js. So you're able to see the record, right? Satish is teaching MongoDB. So we were able to search for a record using a specific search criteria. Okay, finally our search is complete. Now let's take a look at another demo. That is, here we are just having one matching record. So we are just getting one record or one document being written. What if you have multiple documents with the name Satish in your database? Let me insert one more document with the name Satish, and we'll try and retrieve all the documents with the name Satish from this database. This demonstration is about retrieving multiple documents from the Mongo database. So how will you insert a record or a document? db.collectionname.insert. I'm just going to insert one document. So we are going to insert the name. Again, the name will be Satish. So there are multiple documents with the name, and summary for Satish. Again, Satish is really boring. And we'll close the parenthesis. Let's insert the document. Okay, document is inserted. So db.vscode.find. So we have multiple documents with this specific name Satish. Now if I'm going to search for documents pertaining to name Satish, then I'm going to get multiple documents. How do we handle multiple documents that are getting returned from the MongoDB? We'll take a look at that code now. Let's take a look at the code now. So we are first importing the module and then creating an object of type Mongo client, establishing the connection as usual. Now we are writing this async method, which is find users, which takes the connection object, and the parameter we are used for searching now is name is Satish. So we're going to get multiple documents returned. And how is that you search? What is the difference? So this is the method. You get the object, and then the parameter is username is Satish, and you're going to call client.db, pass the database name, dot collection is VS Code, dot find. It's not find one, we are finding multiple records, and then we are passing the name as Satish here. We can also pass the name as username. That's what we are getting in. So what is username? Username is Satish. That's what we are passing. So we are searching for all the documents with the name Satish. We are capturing the result in this variable cursor, and then we are converting that to an array, cursor.array, that is getting mapped to results. Now we have an array of documents which we should be dealing with, and we are checking whether the length of the array is greater than 0, And for each result inside the array, what is that we are performing here is we get every result and then we log the result.name and result.summary. So that is what we are performing here. We are going to get an array of documents and we check whether the length of the array is greater than 0. For each document inside the array, we print dot name and dot summary. If there are no listings found, we just say no listings found, or else we can say no documents found. Let me run this. Let's check what is the output. So it is a node first.js. We should be getting 2 documents written, both these documents with the name Satish. So you're able to see 2 documents are getting written. One is Satish is teaching MongoDB, another one is Satish is really boring. So when you're working with multiple documents, what's the change here? You're going to get the result returned by running this particular command, that is client.db. You pass the database name, the collection name, dot find, it's not find one, dot find, and then the parameter. What is the parameter? We are getting this parameter as in the input parameter, that is name is Satish, and we are passing that to be the parameter for our find. Once when you're getting the results, we are converting that to an array. Say we are converting whatever result we are getting here to an array and mapping that to results. Through the length of the array, take every result from the array and then we log result.name and result.summary. If there are no results found, we log that too. We're able to follow how we deal with multiple documents that are written from the database. Nothing to worry. I have shared all this code on codespindle.com. You can go and search for the Mongo database Node.js link on Codespindle. You'll be able to get all this code. As I told you, first ensure that the services are running, your Node.js is installed, MongoDB is running. Then you put the parameters and you put the correct database names and collection names. Your code is going to work fine. Now let us take a look at how to read all records from the collection. That is, it's like select star from table in SQL, right? So how you read all records from a collection? Don't give any criteria. Let this criteria be empty. So when you don't have any criteria, there is no need to pass any criteria here too. Let this be empty. And here too, let's not get any inputs. Let this be empty. And when you're going to run this, you're going to get all the records from the collection. So let me run this node first.js. Again, we're going to get only those 2 documents. We are just having 2 documents here, but irrespective of what that name is, we are going to get all the documents out. So how you achieve that? Don't give any criteria for search. Let your find be empty. That's it. So you'll be able to find all the documents from the collection. So what all we have seen how to select a document, one document that matches the criteria using find one. Next, we have seen how to retrieve multiple documents from the database using .find with a certain criteria. And finally, we have seen how to select all the documents from the collection. Next, let's see how to update a document in the collection. Say, first we import the modules as usual, pass the URL and create this object of type Mongo client, use that object to connect. Next, we have written this asynchronous function, which will help us to update one specific record in the one specific document in the collection. So we pass the connection object. So this is the parameter. Say, find this record with the name Satish and update the summary like this. Let's meet again. So this is the summary that should be updated for this record, but this should be updated for the very first record that matches this criteria. In our database, we have multiple records with the name Satish. I just want to update for the very first record or very first document. I should use the word document here. So document that matches this criteria, the name to be Satish. Let's take a look at this asynchronous function update user summary. It gets the connection object, username is Satish, and updated summary is what is that summary we want to update. So how you update is you call a set of methods like client.db, pass the database name, collection is VS Code, and here we are saying update one. What is update one? It will update the very first matching record or the document in the collection. Name is Satish, that's the username that's coming in. Updated summary is the updated summary, that is let's meet up again. So $set is the keyword, $set updated summary. So for this document with the name Satish that's coming first in the collection, set the updated summary. So we have after updating, we are just giving certain message to the user. Let me run this code. Let's see whether this is working. Node first.js. Okay, one document matched the query criteria. One document was updated. Let's check the database. So this is the database, right? Satish is teaching MongoDB. Satish is really boring. So after this update query, what should happen? That is this name Satish summary should be let's meet again. So let me run this db.vscode.find. Let's take a look at the output. So you see here, the very first document with the name Satish got updated with the summary, let's meet again. Fine. The next document with the name Satish was not updated because we were calling .update1 and passing the username here. So it's going to just update the very first document in the collection that matches the criteria. I hope you're able to understand how update happens. So most of these things, they follow the same kind of a pattern. Establish the connection, call the async method, pass the criteria. If it is update, we have to pass what is the search criteria and what is the update that we are going to make. So these things we are passing to this async function update user summary, and we are calling the appropriate methods to update our collection. Before winding off Node.js MongoDB database connection, we'll see how to delete a document from the database. So we'll delete one of the documents that match a criteria. Let's take a look at the code. So this is the code for deleting a specific document that matches the criteria. So we are going to delete the very first document in the collection that matches our criteria, search criteria. So as usual, we're importing the MongoDB modules and establishing the connection by creating an object of type Mongo client and calling client.connect. Once when this is resolved, we call this async method, that is delete by name. So we are going to delete someone by name Satish. So let's delete him. So how is that you delete him? You call this async function delete by name. We'll see what this function does. It's an asynchronous function, gets the client object, connection object, and the name of the user. Name of the user is Satish. And how you delete? You call client.db. So Satish DB, collection is VS Code. Delete one. We are just deleting one of the documents that is the first document that matches the name Satish. And we also log the result out. So let's check whether our code is working. Let me run this node first.js. Yeah, one document was deleted. Let's check our Mongo database, db.vscode.find. So the very first document that matches the criteria, name should be Satish, is deleted. That's it. We have seen a lot of operations that we can perform on Mongo database from Node.js. What are the operations? That is creating the connection, listing the database in your Mongo database, and then inserting a document into a specific collection. We've also seen how to retrieve a document using a search criteria. And we have seen how to retrieve multiple documents that match a search criteria. We've also seen how to select all the documents from a collection, irrespective of any criteria. And we've also seen how to update the very first document that matches our search criteria. Finally, we have seen how to delete the first document that matches our search criteria. I hope you were able to follow this. I know you'll be having some questions on the code. Just take a look at the code that's available on codespindle.com. Ensure that your MongoDB service is running, ensure that Node.js is available, and then ensure that you have installed all the packages using npm so that you can call the respective modules and connect to your Mongo database. I hope you had a good time listening to this session, and if you have any questions, you can leave it as comments below. I'll be taking a look at it. Thank you for your time. Thank you all for listening. Take care.